Here are 3 rules that you can live by that will quickly improve your life, and I'm sure your running as well. Rule number 1, follow the path of most resistance. Now this obviously isn't an absolute rule. You probably have a lot of resistance towards running off a cliff or throwing your laptop in a pool, and that's probably a good thing. You probably already know that that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the internal resistance you feel when you think about doing something constructive, something that would move your life forward in some way or another, like going for your long run on a Sunday morning, so that way you'll be ready to run a marathon later on in the year, or finally cleaning your hellhole of a car where you've been stashing 6 months worth of crap rather than throwing it away at the end of the day. The type of internal resistance you feel when you think about taking care of these things is also the same type of resistance that feels empowering to overcome, but paralyzing if we stay under its thumb. But if we can learn not to shy away from the feeling, but instead lean into it, we'll find that our lives will rapidly improve. Because the most rewarding things in life are hidden behind discomfort and resistance. We pursue long-lasting order and success in our lives through temporary discomfort. And if we become aware of these weird little transactions that seems to be deeply woven into the fabric of reality, we can use it to our advantage. We can be comfortable with making this trade as often as possible. And one thing that I've noticed is that as I get better at willingly leaning into discomfort of action, after a while, we'll actually start to enjoy the feeling of resistance. It's kind of this weird thing. The crazy thing is that this discomfort itself becomes exciting and empowering, and I think this is because since resistance is a source of power, after we transcend it, and once we go through this process of transcending it frequently enough, our brain starts to clue in. Okay, brain, we'll just link this feeling of discomfort with empowerment, and we'll get excited to overcome obstacles and challenges. Look, remember this rule. When we overcome resistance, we absorb its power. The greater the resistance, the greater the power. Rule number 2, for heaven's sakes, don't stop doing the things that got you out of a bad situation. It's kind of a mouthful, but what I mean is that human beings are pretty hilarious sometimes, because most of the time we know exactly what we need to do to stop feeling like crap, and we seem to always work ourselves back into a rut. You know, we're watching more Netflix, playing more video games, eating more junk food, blah, 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 blah. And we're just not taking care of ourselves. We're in this negative mindset, this self-loathing spiral. Eventually this goes on for a long enough period of time, and we eventually snap. We say, you know what? I'm tired of living my life like a piece of crap. I'm gonna change things up. So we bounce back, we start feeling better, we start going to the gym, we start getting our work done on time, and we start showering in the morning and dressing into something half decent. And most of all, we are running consistently. And as we do these things, we start to feel better and better, start to feel more confident, we start to feel more energized and better about ourselves. But the weird thing is that something usually happens. Since we no longer have a negative incentive to work ourselves out of, we kind of forget why we're taking care of ourselves to begin with. So we start to slip. We cut corners, skip the run 1 day, 2 days, turns into a week, into a month. Eventually, slip and slide down the slippery slope back into the hole from whence we came. However, have you ever considered what your life might look like if you don't stop doing the things that got you out of a bad situation in the first place? Because in reality, there's no secret to success. Success isn't built by doing, lavish, extraordinary things like banging out an entire movie script overnight, like 40,000 pages of literature. And it's not by going as fast, all-out sprint or working harder than everyone else that one time you got motivated to go to the gym. How about work out so hard that one day you just explode into like Usain Bolt? No, it's ridiculous. Success is built on doing the same small things that got us out of the rut in the first place, and continuing to do those same things every single day for a long period of time. The key is to just do these things long enough that they get locked in as habits. You see, habits are easier to do than not to do, because that's what happens when you engage with these things for long enough. They eventually just become part of who you are, and they'll be easier to do than not do. You just know that it doesn't need to be such a grind because, as I mentioned previously, eventually doing these constructive things like running feels really good. And on a long enough timeline, you begin to look forward to these runs, not as a means to an end, but because of the way they make you feel. So start small, try to implement one small habit that you will actually think you can stick to, lock it in for 21 days or however long it takes until you feel like you're really sticking, and then add a new habit. Keep on doing that until you are in a place where you feel satisfied with your daily life. Daily running will look different for everybody, but just use your judgment. Okay, rule number 3. Record everything. So life can be pretty turbulent. Some days life deals you a shit hand, and maybe something truly devastating happens to you and it breaks your world and you have no idea what to do. And other times you have an amazing day and you feel euphoric and epic and you're on top of the world and you think to yourself, wow, holy smokes, why do I feel like this? Why don't I feel like this more often? Instead of remaining completely oblivious as to why you feel good, bad, why not start writing stuff down and recording your thoughts and feelings on a day-to-day basis? Because when you do, a pattern starts to emerge. You start to realize that there is an intimate relationship between your repeated behaviors and the way that they make you feel. So I truly believe one of the best bangs for the buck habits can start implementing is just record your thoughts, either as a voice memo or a written document on a piece of paper or a notepad, because once you start verbalizing and writing these things down and taking your thoughts out of this weird cobweb-ridden nest in your head and manifesting them into the real world, as weird as it sounds, it's easier to see your thoughts for what they are. And once your thoughts and behaviors are actually recorded in an objective way, it's really difficult to keep making the same mistakes once you start to eventually clue in that, oh, when I do this, I feel like that, and it makes me feel like this. I think you can come to these conclusions without writing things down. But why make the process of growing as a person slower than it needs to be? No matter whether you're reading your thoughts and feelings from a good day or a bad day, all information is good information. Use this information to your benefit. Your life and your running will drastically improve.